There's someone in there! There's no way! Did you hear that, Steve? Something is walking around here with us. Did you hear that? That just said, I love you.
In early 2023, the Ouija Brothers visited Abbeyfield House, an abandoned care home in Staffordshire, England. The property had been abandoned for a number of years already, but was in a surprisingly good condition. The roof was intact, and the walls were free from mould. It was a stark contrast from the buildings that they usually visited, but that wasn't the only difference. Inside, they heard voices.
What was that noise? A woman's voice? Go. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, if someone's in here, we're just YouTubers looking around.
And while the property wasn't in the middle of nowhere, these voices felt close. So close that Griff was convinced that someone was hiding from them. They searched every room in the property and found nobody. Yet the voices are undeniably there, caught on camera, coming from within the house. Here are two of the clearer examples, but headphones are still recommended to hear these. This is far above the usual quality of paranormal voices, and the repeating nature of them removes any doubt about what is being said. How could this ever be explained? The first step to understanding what may have caused an unexplained event is to look carefully at the evidence, to define the characteristics of the event, and to see what is present, or in some cases, not present. The most prominent characteristic of this event is clear voices saying, I love you. There are two of them. A man says, I love you, followed by a woman saying the same. Sometimes the voices are louder, sometimes they're quieter, sometimes one of the Ouija brothers is talking over at least one of them. But they are, as far as I can tell, always the same. The same voices, the same delivery, and the same timing. This can be hard to confirm for yourself due to how quiet they are, but it's the same conclusion that Steve reaches at the end of the original video, and he spent hours working on it. If anyone would know, it's him.
But since I've got back home and I've been able to analyse the footage and edit it, the noises were all the same. It was the same word. It started off as a male, then followed by a female. It was always the same, and he was like, I love you, which kind of took the sting out of it.
Another characteristic is that the voices come from multiple places in the property. They at first heard upstairs, but the majority of instances appear to emanate from rooms on the ground floor. Whatever is making the noise seems to be able to move undetected around the house, but there's no direct evidence that other people are present. The group move from room to room and clear each one. Nobody else is seen or heard. While the voices themselves could be seen as circumstantial evidence that other people may have been nearby, the other characteristics suggest something else to me, and to Griff as well.
That just said, I love you. That's bullshit. There's no way.
Did you hear that?
I fucking did.
It said, I love
But
you.
someone's planted something in here, man.
There's got to be a tape recorder.
There's got to be. There's something planted.
I heard something.
The voices are a recording. But if the voices are a recording, the question remains, where are they coming from? Something like this would require speakers covertly hidden around the property. It would require power sources. It would require something to control it all. It would take a lot of effort to get all of this equipment together, to hide it, and to trigger it at the right moment. It isn't impossible to do, but But if I told you instead that the answer was hidden in plain view? The first voice is heard while the Ouija Brothers are investigating the first floor. Griff hears something that sounds like Mike and a woman's voice.
What was that noise? A woman's voice. Go.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, someone's in here. We're just YouTubers looking around. This happened before, Rory. Oh, that was a woman's voice who said Mike or something.
Yeah, I heard something say Mike.
Where did it
Not
sound
Mike,
like it come
it's
from?
just a woman's voice go.
Where was
Like
it
really,
coming
really
from?
quiet.
Was it class tutor?
It was that way. Didn't you feel like it was that way?
I didn't. No, more like that way.
They think it came from this side of the building, so they make their way to the top floor and check the rooms there. These rooms are empty and they hear nothing. So they head downstairs again. Back on the first floor, Griff hears another voice, this time coming from the ground floor.
There's someone in here.
Fuck was that?
There's someone in here. Them down there, I think.
They all head down, and here on the ground floor is where the majority of voices are heard.
There's someone in there!
I've just heard it again.
In this corridor and in the entrance hall, there are 10 or more instances where the Ouija Brothers mention hearing a voice, or a voice occurs without them noticing, but it is still captured. The voices seem to travel around the ground floor, and the exact source of them is never located. But the evidence captured leaves almost no room for other explanations. This is a speech unit made by a company called Time Tech, and is part of their Warden call system. These were fitted to Abbeyfield House to allow its elderly residents to make emergency calls for help. And they are everywhere in the building. Bedrooms, bathrooms, communal areas. Sometimes there are even multiple speech units in the same area. It has a whole bunch of buttons on the front of it, but we'll talk about those later in the video. For now, the only thing that we need to know is that it has a big fat speaker right here, and that there are dozens of speakers installed in this property. This speaker system being present should be all that a reasonable person needs to know in order to reach the conclusion that it is most likely the source of the voices. But there are also some interesting features that the system provides that further convince me of this. The speech units are unable to do anything on their own. They connect up to a system known as the Central Control Unit, which is installed locally in the property. It isn't seen in the Ouija Brothers video, but it does turn up, if an exploration video is from after the house was gutted. This board handles call routing between the speech units and whoever is operating the system, which differs depending on what mode it's in. Local mode calls someone inside the building on a desk phone or a cordless phone. Remote offsite calls someone at an external company, which would be a specialist response center. The last node is the most interesting. Local offsite is designed to call a member of staff's mobile phone. And the interestingness doesn't end there. Documentation mentions being able to call in from a mobile phone as well. Anyone who knows the correct phone number can dial into the Warden call system, and once connected, they can call any speaker in the house. In order to play spooky voices through the speakers, you don't have to hang around in the property all night. You can sit in the comfort of your own home and wait. If that seems convenient, there's even more. The user manual for this system talks about a couple of ways where it can connect to more than one speaker at a time. There is public address mode, where every speaker is active at the same time. This is useful for things like property-wide announcements. There's also sequential dialing. In this mode, the user calls once to make a connection and can then press a key to move to the next speech unit. This is useful for things like morning checkups, where you need to call every resident one after the other. Let me go on a wild tangent for a second. In software development, there's a concept of user experience, which deals with keeping a product feeling good. Part of this is reducing friction. The less friction their user experiences, the more likely they are to stick with something. If a process requires 15 steps to complete it, a percentage of users will drop out at each of those steps. If the same result can be achieved with a shorter process, it will lose less people in the journey. Less friction equals happier users equals more money. And while there's no money involved in using a distributed speaker system to mess with people, the concept of friction still applies. Having these ways of simplifying the process makes it more likely that someone would go through with it. It's not impossible to do without them, but the less friction, the better. As touched upon earlier, sequential dialing is used to contact residents one after the other. It uses an index to do this, and each speaker that you want to sequentially dial has to be put on that list. When the operator selects sequential dialing, it connects to the first speaker on the index. After conversing with the resident associated with that speaker, the operator presses a button on their phone that connects them to the next resident. This goes on until all speakers on the index have been dialed, or the operator hangs up. Because the purpose of this mode is to communicate with residents one after another, only those speakers directly associated with a resident would be added to the index. Speakers in communal areas like hallways and shared bathrooms would not be put on the index. It's also likely that speakers in residents' personal bathrooms would not be on the index either, as this would make the system more cumbersome to use. This map shows the basic layout of the ground floor. It isn't to scale and doesn't perfectly represent every room, but it's good enough to get a sense of where things are. Most of the activity encountered on the ground floor occurs either in the entrance hall or the corridor near the basement. The red marks indicate either the known positions of speakers, because they're seen on camera, or speaker positions based on extrapolations. If the communal area and bathroom ones are crossed out, these are the bedroom speakers that would be on the index. While on the ground floor, the Ouija Brothers are surrounded by sequentially dialable speakers. It's a perfect area to get the impression that you're surrounded by voices. There are speakers in almost every room of Abbeyfield House, and these can be remotely operated from anywhere in the UK. Whoever is operating the system can move between speakers by pressing one button on their phone. Has there ever been a system in a building that more perfectly fits the evidence captured? Here's what I believe occurred. The Ouija Brothers enter the property late in the evening. Someone sees them enter, or an alarm is triggered that alerts security. Security calls the manager of the property to let them know. Meanwhile, the Ouija Brothers make their way to the first floor, where they spent some time standing in the hallway. At this point, the manager dials into the warden system using sequential dialing and connects to a speaker on the ground floor, possibly in this bedroom. When Griff hears the word mic, it's possible that he's hearing the tail end of an instruction being given to the operator on where to position the device that's playing the voices in relation to their mobile phone. Something like, put it closer to the mic, or it may just have been audio pareidolia, or a voice combined with a clicking noise. While Griff thinks he hears it from across the hallway, Stiff correctly identifies the noise as having come from the ground floor stairs. When the Ouija Brothers go upstairs instead, they move away from the active speaker on the ground floor, so they hear nothing during their time up there. When they return to the middle floor, they are closer to the active speaker again, so they're able to hear it once more. They move to the ground floor and into the hallway next to the basement. The operator now uses sequential dialing to switch to a speaker in the bedroom at the end of the hallway, and uses it to play several voices a few minutes apart. When the Ouija Brothers move back to the entrance hall, Svi hears a voice he describes as being right behind him. It's likely from the speaker in this bedroom. This one on the wall next to him is unlikely to be part of sequential dialing due to being in a communal area not directly linked to one resident. That's everything that someone would need to do to achieve this paranormal activity. It only takes a few key presses on a mobile phone. It might not be this exact sequence of speaker activations, but that isn't important. It's the system fitted to the building that is important. This speaker system and its features are a great fit for the evidence, but there are a couple of reasons that people give for why it can't be this system. The first, and maybe most problematic, is that the power was off. If there's no power, the speakers can't possibly be on, so the voices must be coming from somewhere else. So let's dig into this a little deeper. The claim of the power being off comes directly from a video, as well as Griff mentioning it during a live stream, where he said this.
It's an incredible
them
building.
intercom things don't work. I tried them when I was there.
So you actually
played
did try
the
'em?
stair lift and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
as well. So
Yeah, I tried everything. I touch everything I do.
I know.
I didn't even know he messed with the intercoms. So you actually messed with the intercoms.
I've messed with them all, yeah, pressed them and everything, yeah.
Because
That's what I mean. When I go around, I'd usually see if anything's working. If anything's working, so I
know
can
we always test.
play with it, like.
We always test the light switches, but the light switches, they didn't turn on. He tried to get up the stairs on the stair lift, that didn't. But I didn't know he tested.
Yeah, I
the
tested
intercoms.
everything out. It's like anything that's electrical. I mean, I even get to the electrical board and see if the electrics actually work from the electrical board and see if them turned off, because it's like it's just something I do. I suppose I do it all the while. But
Yeah, I mean,
His reason for thinking the power was off in the property seems to be twofold. One, he checked the fuse box and the switches were all off. And two, he went around and touched things, including the speakers. Let's address the fuse box first. Large properties may have more than one fuse box, so finding one of these and checking it is not a good way of knowing that all power is off. From my understanding, if an electrician is working on a circuit, they would never rely solely on a visual check of the fuse box. They would also confirm the lack of power using various tools and methods to measure the flow of electricity, like voltage testers and multimeters. They would also stack these methods redundantly in order to reduce the chance of making a mistake. I'm not suggesting Griff go around with a huge toolbox checking these things, as it isn't necessary if you aren't working on the electrics. At the same time, you can't say the power was definitely off by looking at a fuse box. Then there's Griff going around and touching things that might give a response if the power was on. The first reason I believe this isn't a good testing method is Griff can't have been sure what response he should expect from the speakers. What happens if you press this button? Does it light up? Is there a beep? I'm genuinely asking. I don't know what immediate response it gives. I can tell you the function of all the buttons, but not the minutiae of their audio-visual feedback. I've read a lot of documentation for this system, and others like it, and I don't know. So how could Griff ever know? Again, this isn't something I expect them to know, but you can't say something is 100% off if you don't know how it behaves. Reason 2 for not having faith in the touch things method is that, are you telling me Griff went around every single one of these speaker units and thoroughly tested them? Not just once, but on 2 separate days. The Ouija Brothers don't have unlimited time during an investigation, especially one where there is a looming threat of security arriving at any moment. It was actively patrolled by security. They weren't always present, but there was a lingering chance they could turn up at any minute. You are not going to test every one of those speakers in a thorough manner when you know that each one that you do test increases the risk that someone will show up. I get it. I'm not saying they should have tested every single one of them, but when something unexplained happens, you cannot ignore the chance that you didn't test things as well as you thought you did. With such time pressures, testing a handful of them makes sense. Even as a very thorough and analytical person, I would not go around the property and systematically test each identical speaker until I had a reason to. When evidence points toward a specific explanation, there is a need to re-examine the methodology that was used. With Griff's lack of understanding toward what these devices do, combined with not testing all of them, and the possibility of the property having multiple fuse boxes, I do not believe that the power was 100% confirmed to be off. There's something else about this system that would allow for power to be out to the rest of the building, but not to the speakers. There is a battery backup system built into it. It's no longer present in the urban exploration video, but it would have been here at the bottom of the control unit. This battery would allow the system to keep operating for around 8 hours in the event of a power outage. After that time, the unit shuts down until maintenance power is restored. This meant to be a temporary measure in the event of a power cut and not a permanent way to run the device. This would allow someone with a little forethought to power up the speaker system and have it active throughout the evening without needing to power up the rest of the building. It would take more effort to do this, but it is a definite possibility. Another factor that gets brought up as a reason for the speakers not being the cause is that security wouldn't mess around with people like that. But what about someone who isn't security? There are a number of ways that someone could be informed about intruders at a property. All it takes is for someone with an understanding of the warden's system to become aware that someone is inside. And this could happen in a number of ways. Let's assume that the person doing this is the current owner or manager of Abbeyfield House. It's not abandoned. No business is operating there, but people own that land and are actively trying to develop there. Security would have this person's contact number. In the event of an alarm going off, they may contact the manager to let them know about it. And that's it. That is every step necessary for someone with knowledge of the speaker system to be notified of intruders. They have knowledge, access, and awareness to make these voices happen. There are other possibilities, like neighbors seeing lights through the windows and contacting the manager, but we don't need to go through every scenario. The next question is, why would someone do this? And let me answer that with another question. Have you met people? People are strange. We are all unique. We all find different ways of amusing ourselves. It isn't a great leap to think of a reason why someone might do this. The reason that makes most sense to me is a frustrated person who keeps getting calls late into the evening about intruders, as this has become a hotspot for urban explorers and paranormal investigators. Security aren't going to get there for an hour or more, so what does that person do? They can't stop people from getting in, but they can at least amuse themselves. Perhaps they know from the hour of day that this is likely to be a paranormal group who are likely to be recording and are likely to upload it to YouTube. That's the reason and payoff right there. How long do the voices last in the video? That is the amount of effort that it took them, around 20 to 30 minutes. It is not a lot of work. So for all the reasons previously stated in this rambling video that I probably should have stopped making. It's the speaker system built into the house. There's an example often given in legal settings about using your common sense, and it goes something like this. You wake up in the morning and you are getting ready for work. You look out the window and you see that the ground is wet and that people are wearing raincoats and carrying umbrellas. While you didn't see it rain, you can infer from the evidence in front of you that it must have rained while you were asleep. Could there be other explanations? Sure. But the most common sense conclusion to reach is that it rained. The most common sense conclusion to reach here is that the speaker system installed at Abbeyfield House was the source of the I love you voices.